When the therapist said to me, be careful, she wasn't trying to scare me. She was wanting me to be more aware so that I could be proactive. And listen, I am not saying that everyone who bargains is going to become violent. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that this phase can be emotionally intense when a person is feeling desperate and they're giving you this last ditch effort that they think is going to salvage everything. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. I'm Dr. Lisa Summerour and this is my series on the stages of the loss cycle. So I've already started off with, we've gone through shock, denial, and last episode was anger. This episode, I'm going to be talking to you about bargaining. Bargaining happens usually when you are near the end of the relationship or the relationship has already ended, right? And it might sound something like if the relationship hasn't come to a complete end yet, it might be something like, I never wanted to do this, but I will do anything right now to save this relationship, including going to therapy if that's what I need to do to make it work. That would be a bargaining statement. Or maybe if I just try harder, maybe I'll change their mind. You could be thinking that to yourself. Or what if I agree to the things that they wanted that I really didn't want to do? That would be you bargaining. Bargaining is what my grandmother would probably call the what ifs. What if I do this? Or what if I had done that? It's really you playing mind games with yourself because it's you imagining this series of scenarios and playing them out in your mind to see if you can come up with a way to prevent what's happening from happening. So think about that, right? You're trying to stop the thing that's already in motion from being in motion. Now, before I go deeper, I want to remind you of a couple of things. And I say this with every one of the stages of the series because it's so important. There were times for me when I went through my divorces, and this is the reason I'm doing this particular series. There were times for me when I went through my divorces when I was just confused. I mean, I did not have language for what I was experiencing, and I didn't know if it was normal. I literally talked about in one of the episodes sitting in a parking lot. I was in a U-Haul parking lot waiting to get boxes when they opened, and I called my mom and asked her if I was losing my mind because some of the thoughts that I was having just did not seem to make sense for me. So I didn't have a language for what I was experiencing. And I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know if it was normal. So when I started doing work on myself, I started reading and learning and realized, there's this thing called the loss cycle. And so by the time I got into coaching other people through this, I was pretty aware of what this could look like. So this series is about sharing information with you so that you can put words to the emotions that you're probably experiencing if you haven't experienced them already. The other thing that I want to repeat is, like every one of the other stages in the loss cycle, bargaining is normal. And these stages aren't linear. They don't necessarily happen in any particular order. Now, the way that I'm going through this series with shock, denial, anger, now we're in bargaining, you will see they're pretty much going to be presented like that no matter where you read about or see the loss cycle. But understand, you don't necessarily go through them in that order. That's one thing. The second thing to know is you could cycle through one or more of the stages more than one time, okay? So just because you go through feeling angry and it kind of feels like it's gone, it doesn't mean it might not come back. Now, in my book and in my program, I talk about a flat circle versus spiraling up. And I'll go ahead and share that now because I just think this is such a good way to think about this. When you're on a flat circle, you see the same thing from the same perspective every time you go around the track, right? If you think of yourself being on a track, everything that you saw other than people moving around, but you're going to see the same thing from the same perspective. But when you spiral up, and you're looking down, first of all, you're looking at it from a completely different perspective. And this, hopefully for you, represents growth. It represents change. I like to use the term post-traumatic growth. But what it does is when you're spiraling up, you may see the same things from a different vantage point. And so you'll be able to address those things with a different mindset. And so it's not about having to completely change your entire environment or your perspective. It's changing it enough so that you can look at things a little differently. And so that's why I don't want people to be alarmed if you go through a stage in the loss cycle more than once. That's also normal. Here's something that I think a lot of people may find to be a hard truth. When bargaining does happen and you're still in the relationship, but it really is near the end, like you know the end is coming, you may actually be the one filing for the divorce, or they have already moved out, but technically it's not over yet in terms of the legality if it was a marriage. It is rare that a relationship is going to be salvaged with bargaining at that point. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's rare. It's rare. And the reason is it's a last ditch effort. And they're just often futile at this point in the relationship. Unless both individuals make a decision to take some extreme action to rebuild this relationship, it's probably going to end at this point. Because one of them may be there, but the other person is the one that says, I've had it. And you're probably too close to the end to save it. Now, when it does end, the bargaining mind games that continue, they're going to be nothing more than your brain attempting to find a solution by creating outcomes that are no longer realistic options. You're already divorced, and now you're talking about going to marriage counseling in your head. You're thinking about marriage counseling. You're already divorced, and you're saying, oh, if we had just had more sex. You're already divorced, and you're thinking, oh, maybe I should have wanted to do whatever it is, okay? So in your mind, thinking of what if I had done, or if I had done these, or if they had only done these scenarios, are not going to reverse what has already happened in real life, okay? I want to share, if I can, I want to share a little bit of one of my own experiences with bargaining. Now for us, the bargaining.
You've built a successful career, checked all the right boxes, but after divorce, why does it feel like everything is falling apart? Searching for answers online at 2 a.m., it will not bring you peace. Neither will pretending you're fine when inside you're anything but.
I remember those feelings, the exhaustion, the anxiety, and the frustration from feeling stuck. It seemed like no matter what I did, I could not figure out a way to move past the pain. If you are dealing with a divorce while you're also managing your career, I've been there. Things didn't get better for me until I stopped waiting for time to heal me, and I took control of my own healing. And that's how this came about. That's why I designed the 4 essential steps to creating joy after a difficult divorce.
It's time to break the cycle. Imagine waking up feeling lighter, knowing exactly what to do next, and rediscovering your joy, not just surviving, but thriving. In this masterclass, you'll learn the biggest mistakes that keep you stuck in divorce pain, why traditional recovery methods don't always work for high-achieving women, and the 4 essential steps to rebuilding your confidence and joy. Give yourself permission to stop reliving the past and start designing the future you deserve. Register today.
Involved going to therapy, and I had actually already moved out of our home. And I can remember my mom calling me and saying that, he had called because I left and he didn't know where I had gone. And she told him, she said, Lisa loves you and she is willing to come back, but only if you're willing to go to therapy. Now, it was one of those last-ditch efforts. And I think it was, for me, the first time and only time that I was kind of thinking, okay, if we go to therapy, they're going to fix this. Like, I thought the therapist, was going to pull out that proverbial crystal ball and work some little miracle and everything would be okay. It also ended up becoming the first time that I realized that's not the therapist's job. It is not the therapist's job to save your marriage. It is not. I believe the therapist's job is to help you and the other person have better communication, get clear about who you are and what you really want and what you're really willing to contribute and maybe even sacrifice or commit to make this relationship work, to salvage this relationship. And sometimes the honesty that can come out in therapy is more proof that you should not be with this person than it is proof that we can somehow work this out, okay? I can think about years ago, I had helped somebody get their book published. I helped them walk through what they were going to do with the book publishing and marketing and all of this, and they were a marriage counselor. And I can remember years had gone by and the book is out, and we had a phone call. And the person said to me, because it was like, so how are you doing? How's business? How's the book? Oh, it was great. She said, I have saved so many marriages. And I thought, no, you haven't. No. I am a divorce coach. I work with people after, primarily women, after they have gone through a divorce to support them and them getting their lives to the place where they feel proud and confident and the heartache is not taking them under all the time. But I by no means think that I'm the one that is doing that for them. I believe I'm supporting them and giving them the tools. So no, I don't think people save other people's marriages. I think you give them the tools and maybe even the confidence, right? And the strategies so that they can save themselves if that's what they want. I learned that therapy only works, one, when both people are engaged in the process, and two, when one of them doesn't need more than just marriage counseling. And I'm not trying to be funny or cute when I say this, because again, this is some of my story. My reality check came in two parts. The first part was I wasn't seeing any behavior changes at home, right? So we go to therapy because things are not the way one or both of us wants them to be, but I wasn't seeing any changes at home. The second part was the therapist one night, I had gone by myself, and when I left, she put her hands on my shoulder and looked me straight in my eyes. And the first thing she said was, I don't want to scare you, which of course, scared me. But I think he needs more intensive therapy and possibly medication. So I want you to be very careful. Well, damn. Thanks for not scaring me, right? Personally, I really believe, and this is just my personal belief, that the bargaining phase has the potential to be volatile. And I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist, but speaking from personal experience and from talking to other people who have been in situations, this is often, like I said, if the relationship is not completely dissolved at this point, if you're still dating or still together, this is that last ditch effort. And when that last ditch effort doesn't work, or it isn't accepted or well received by the other person, the other person can sometimes realize that they have lost control, whether it was real or perceived control. And this is when people can end up getting desperate. Now, research does support this. According to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, that period of separation or divorce right after that is one of the most dangerous times for individuals in abusive relationships. Studies have shown that separation is a risk factor for escalating violence. So when the abuser feels that they're losing power or control, they can actually become more controlling, manipulative, and even violent. So when the therapist said to me, be careful, she wasn't trying to scare me. She was wanting me to be more aware so that I could be proactive. And listen, I am not saying that everyone who bargains is going to become violent. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that this phase can be emotionally intense when a person is feeling desperate and they're giving you this last ditch effort that they think is going to salvage everything. And if they feel like they have lost control at that point, they can act in ways that are out of character. So please be aware of your surroundings and be aware of changes in behavior. And if you ever feel unsafe, trust that feeling. So that was what the end of a relationship bargaining situation could look like, when you or your ex is bargaining at the end of the relationship. But let's talk about what bargaining can look like when the divorce has already happened. So after a divorce. In that situation, it could sound more like, if we had just gone to therapy, we could have saved our marriage. Now, it's interesting. David Justice was married to Halle Berry eons ago. And in an interview earlier this year, this is something he said. We were young, things he didn't know. He was pretty honest about it. He took a lot of flack because of some of the things he said, but I listened to or read the whole interview, and I thought what he said actually made sense. One of the things that he did say was he thought if we had gone to marital counseling, they might have been able to save the marriage. And that's fair. He didn't say it would have done it, but it just speaks to how our minds work, that we really believe that we can find this one thing that might have been the thing that made all the difference. Is it possible? Yes, but we don't know. Some of the other things you might think are, if I had only paid more attention to whatever it was, or what if I hadn't worked so much? These are things that our mind will conjure up for us when we're doing that what if game after the relationship has ended. This is something else that could happen that I put into this category of bargaining. It's the let's stay friends, okay? And the reason I put this in bargaining after the relationship is over is because this is a way of negotiating with the loss by trying to hold on to some version, any version of the relationship so it doesn't feel like a complete ending. It's the mind saying, okay, if I can't have the marriage, maybe I can at least have this, whatever this is. And you can include some other wish list things on there that don't necessarily sever the relationship. Maybe we can try again in the future. Might come with a little ha ha ha. Or let's keep the door open. Or maybe we can still spend holidays together just for the kids. Or how about this? Staying overly involved in each other's lives, keeping shared accounts or property longer than is actually necessary. Or this one, continuing to do couple things even though you're divorced. These are still, to me, these are just what ifs that got repackaged. And I'm just going to put this here. I know that there are these amicable breakups that are happening now that some people are doing through their divorce, and they have children and they have figured out a way to be amicable. I really believe that unless you had a really dynamic relationship and you really have been able to develop a friendship through your divorce, most people need to have a break. There needs to be a legitimate separation. I actually coach people, cut the social media, all of that stuff, because I'm typically dealing with people who have struggled going through that divorce. And it may have been a very difficult, tumultuous divorce. There are a lot of bad feelings left. And so this trying to be friends really is a way of maintaining relationship, probably for the wrong reason. Okay? And so why do you want to maintain that connection would be one of the questions I would ask you to ask yourself. And instead of, what if I had done something different to save it? It becomes, what if we maintain this connection? Maybe it can turn into something else down the road. And that's what I want you to be really honest with yourself about. Is this a way to keep that connection, keep that string connected to your ex? Because you really are in the back of your mind hoping that something happens down the road. You're not really trying to be their friend. You're just trying to keep that door open or the back door open. So I want you to think about that. So I want to ask you, have you experienced or are you experiencing now bargaining? Has it happened during the breakup or after the split? And what did yours look like? One of the other things that you might hear that would signify bargaining is friends who think they're being supportive and helpful because maybe they're mad at your ex as well. And it may be that, oh, if he had only done this or if she had only done that, you guys would still be together. Look, I've said it, people have said it to me, for me, all of that. But it's a crystal ball because we really don't know what that one thing is that would have made all the difference and you'd still be together. Could there be this one magical thing that could have happened that would have caused that? Okay? So what can you do? What can you do if you are still in the midst of this bargaining or you want to try to process it? The first thing I want you to do is be honest with yourself and recognize what's actually happened. So when you catch yourself playing out these scenarios, what if I had done this? What if we had tried that? Name it. Say to yourself, I am bargaining with myself right now. because just naming it can help you back up a little and take a step back and look at it from another perspective. Two things that you can actually experiment with. The first thing is, because a lot of times we lose this in all of the emotional stuff, I want you to write down what you actually did do, have done, or may still be doing. Did you go to therapy with or without your ex? Are you going now? Have you been reading more books on self-help than you've ever read in your entire life because you thought this would work? Were you reading books for couples? Write down all of the things that you tried. Was it meditation? Did you try to vacation together or apart? What are the things that you did that were really intentional, that you can think back on now and go, you know what, I did that trying to salvage. Did you do things that you never wanted to do because your partner wanted to do them because you thought, this is going to help us bond? I want you to write those things down, because you need to be able to see, I really did put effort into this. Like, I didn't just wake up on a ho-hum one day and decide it was over. The second thing that I want you to experiment with is I want you to ground yourself in your current reality, okay? And when you hear yourself doing the what if, or if he had only, or she had only, if they had only, I want you to stop and go, stop asking myself, what if me, him, she, they had done this, and say, what is? Because as long as you're still playing the what if game, your mind, you're still giving yourself permission to let your mind create scenarios that aren't going to change anything. Your brain is playing a game with you because you're asking the wrong question. What if is not the right question? The better question is, what is? What is going on in my life right now? What do I know is going on in their life, if you know? Otherwise, you're just guessing there too. So what is going on in your life right now? I want you to write that down. What's the status of this relationship? Are you now legally divorced? And if you are, stop thinking like you're still married to this person and you still have the right to have that kind of influence over them. Okay? What is happening in your life right now that doesn't even involve them? It doesn't concern them. It has nothing at all to do with your ex. Write those things down. Now, in previous episodes dealing with the loss cycle, I have talked about something called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. And you can go back to one of the previous ones on, I think on denial, I mentioned it, and on anger, I mentioned it. And you can go back in one of those previous exercises. The benefit of the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is it is designed to ground you in the space, like right where you are right now in this moment. So it works at any point. What I just gave you, those two things, you can experiment. Write down what you've already done and write down what is instead of what if. This is my way. I feel like this grounds you in the reality of your life, not just the physical space you're in right now. What is going on in my life right now? What is something that I'm proud of? What is something that I'm looking forward to? So do what is, not what ifs, okay? So I really hope this episode has blessed you in some way. It has been beneficial, that you got something out of this that you're going to be able to use so that you can move yourself forward. And if you got something out of it and you know someone who you think would benefit from watching it, please share this with them. And both of you, subscribe to my channel. Yeah, subscribe to my channel. I'm excited to continue with this series. I just want you to remember that bargaining is a normal part of the loss cycle. You may go through it more than once, and it may not be in the order that I'm doing these episodes. I want you to remember that divorce is not a destination. Your journey is bigger and brighter than any one experience. I'll see you next week. Be good to yourself.